Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank weekend preview brought to you by First NBC Bank with 32 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. Well, the high school state championships continue in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, a three-day event. Started Thursday, 2 duds and 1 great game. Of course, games on Friday, 3 more, and then 3 more to conclude things on Saturday. And Lenny, was a mixed bag on Thursday. Crowds not as good as they could be because of the dates, because of the times. You had 2 games that were not competitive. John Curtis, again, proving its superiority in their division, which this year was Division II. Who knows what it will be next year? And then, of course, it was a total mismatch. Congratulations to Archbishop Hannon on a great season, but this was a situation where they got in because of the format that was in place, frankly, and Calvary Baptist was too good. And then, of course, in the Division I game, a tremendous game with Rummel coming from behind to beat Byrd 23-22.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, two mismatches to start the day. I was really surprised that Curtis handled U High as well as they did. And I mean, the way the game started, it looked like it was going to be that kind of down to the wire sort of game, but Curtis exerted their will. They have been there before, and I think that was that ended up being the case in a lot of instances here. You saw the team that had been there before, that had the experience of taking in everything, that game. And then, of course, Rummel coming back in the second half to defeat Byrd, a team that had been there 2 of the past 4 years against a team that was there for the first time. Now, the first game was 2 teams that had not been to the Dome before, and Calvary Baptist just got going early and never let up in defeating Archbishop Hannon.
We were laughing when Kenny Young drilled Manny Miles into the turf, and that Manny was whispering to him, LSU, LSU, or something of that nature, with his dad watching.
Exactly. You can imagine that, Dad's in the stands watching and seeing that hit and saying, man, that guy needs to play for me. And the other thing about Curtis as well, winning the way they did, Malachi Dupree didn't play in the game with a sore hamstring. So, he's been a tough senior year for him, battling injuries all year long, not getting a chance to play that one final game in a Curtis uniform. It had to be tough for him, but at the end of the day, Curtis wins their 26th championship.
And it's simply hard to fathom 26 championships. That's just amazing. When you think about it. Calvary Baptist, really good program. John Bachman, good coach, and congratulations on their first. And then Rummel, who win 2 straight in the top class, regardless of this split, ridiculous format that we're dealing with. That's very significant, and Jay Ross has been one of the best coaches in Louisiana. He didn't need a state championship to validate that, but now he's got 2, and I suspect he's going to end up being among the elite by the time his career is done.
Absolutely. He was already, but these 2 championships help validate that for everyone else around Louisiana who maybe weren't as familiar with Jay Roth and the Rummel program to be able to see.
And of course, the Friday games, 3 of those will have the original live from the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Coverage from 6 p.m. to midnight on WGSO 990 AM and, of course, through SportsNola.com. And then on Saturday, we'll have the broadcast of East Jefferson against Carr at 4 p.m., which ought to be great, on WRBH 88.3 FM and WRBH.org. We'll have the 3 Tailgater show Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon live from the Dome as well. So stay with us for all of our prep coverage here through SportsNola.com and radio. And, of course, the New Orleans Saints are back in action on the road Sunday against the St. Louis Rams. Last time they went there, it didn't go so well, and I'm sure that's been mentioned a few times with some of these players that played there previously. Lenny, they simply need to focus and take care of business.
And I was thinking back this morning about when we sat here in this very spot before the Jets game, and you thought about the makings of a trap game, coming off a solid performance, Sunday Night Football the next week. This is coming right in between the 2 games against the Panthers. It's a team with a losing record, a team that did not play very well the last couple of weeks in two road losses. And if anybody can get his team to overcome those types of things, it is Sean Payton. And clearly he's got the example of the Jets game to point to. And all you got to do is look back at those previous games against the Rams in recent years. Those were some not so good Rams teams that handled the Saints in 2011, 1 year here in New Orleans. So he's got some examples to point to when it comes to this team. But the thing that concerns me most of all in this game is the Rams' pass rush. Robert Quinn is as good a pass rusher as there is in the National Football League, and the Saints have to be able to block him to give Drew Brees time to be able to throw the football.
Which means run the ball effectively and keep them honest in the process so they don't just come whenever they want to. The New Orleans Pelicans play their final home game for a while tonight at home against Memphis, coming off of an overtime win over Detroit. Ryan Anderson struggled with his shot, but boy, did he come up big in overtime in that game. And you got good performances by Tyreek Evans, who wasn't supposed to play, and Drew Holiday, and Al-Farouq Aminu. And listen, they blew a lead again in that game. They're an inconsistent young team, but they won it. And this is a big game at home against Memphis, a division and conference opponent, before they hit the road for their toughest road trip of the season.
Yeah, 5 on the road and against some very good teams in the Western Conference. They won't be back until 2 days after Christmas. It'll be the next home game. So your last chance Friday night to see the Pelicans before Christmas. But, yeah, this is one. And the Pelicans handled Memphis, probably their best overall performance of the year in Memphis early in the season, and need somewhere close to a repeat. Obviously, you're not dealing with the same things, the same talent at that point, with Anthony Davis having been on the floor then. But one of the things that interested me out of Wednesday night is you had Drew Holiday a little bit nicked up. You had Tyreek Evans coming off the sprained ankle. We thought he was day-to-day, maybe a 2-week proposition. He ends up playing. Isn't that encouraging to see that guys are out there playing when maybe they were hurt and were going to be out a little bit longer? That's something we haven't been used to seeing down here in these parts.
Nope. All the game stories, all the previews of the prep games at sportsnola.com. So check those out. Enjoy the Saints game this weekend. And we look forward to telling you all about everything coming up on Monday. Lenny, as always, a pleasure. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, have a great weekend. And let's remind folks as well, on Monday, if you're looking to make your plans for Monday, the final meeting of the year of the Greater New Orleans Quarterback Club, where the Prep Player of the Year will be announced. A great opportunity to see some of the best players in the New Orleans area, all in one room. If you don't go to the Dome, of course, these next 2 days, where you'll do that as well. But, see these guys get their just desserts for performances during the 2013 season.
Yep, 15 Prep Players of the Week, their coaches, parents, Prep Player of the Year. You'll want to be there at the Cannery, 3803 Toulouse Street in New Orleans. Come on by and join us for a good lunch as well. That's our First NBC Bank weekend preview, brought to you by First NBC Bank, with 32 locations throughout the Greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. Have a great weekend and God bless.